Hey guys, thank you for joining us for our daily Devo today. Today we're in 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now I know if you've been doing our daily Devo consistently, there's been times you've come across chapters that you probably said, I didn't know that was there, or I wasn't aware of that. Well, today it's the opposite. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, we're talking about David and Goliath. Now, if you know anything about David and Goliath, it is a well-known story. As a matter of fact, I Googled David and Goliath, and it got 36 million results. That shows you how much people know about it. Even people who don't read the Bible, they know what that is. They know that story. Or they know the metaphor for a sports team. That's a David versus Goliath. It means the underdog facing the team that's supposed to beat them. And if you look at the story, you're probably familiar with it, but I wanted to look at just one section of the story that maybe we don't cover as much. And it's that part of chapter 17, after David has already brought the food, he's seen his brothers wondering why in the world they're not willing to stand up against Goliath. And then he goes to ask Saul's permission. I love that. See, David had to sell Saul on saying yes that he could face Goliath. It wasn't like he saw him and he charged him. He understood he had to do it with the king's permission. So he goes to Saul, and I find it really interesting if you think about the story. Did Saul really think David could defeat Goliath? And I honestly don't think so. I think Saul was embarrassed that no one from the army had been willing to stand up. I think he was fearful. He saw Goliath and he thought, I don't want to die. And he saw David and he thought, if this young kid goes out and he's killed, that may so energize my army that they attack. Or he knew that David had some pretty impressive older brothers and they might go out and face Goliath in response to David dying. So I almost think he saw David as that lamb that would go out and be sacrificed and might energize his army. Now, he does try to help. Remember, he tells him, hey, if you're going to face Goliath, take my armor. Now, not many people in that day had armor. The king would have armor. But remember, Saul was a big guy above everyone else. So when David puts on the armor, he tries to wear it, and he can't even walk in it. So David just says, no, listen, I know me. I've got a sling. I've killed, again, the lion. I've killed the bear. I can use my sling. So he knew what he could do. He knew his abilities, and he had confidence in that. He didn't try to be something that he wasn't. And I think sometimes that's our challenge. God calls us to do something, and we try to do it like somebody else would do it, not like we would do it. See, you are a fantastic original. You are a poor copy. In other words, I'm a great Steve Lacy. I am not a good Mark McClellan. I am not a good Mark Smith. I'm not a good somebody else. I'm a good me. And I remember meeting Chuck Swindoll, which, if you don't know who Chuck Swindoll is, a great communicator. I grew up as a youth pastor listening to him, and when I was always thinking, man, if I could speak like Chuck Swindoll, that would be amazing, because I thought he was a fantastic speaker. I got to meet him personally. He spoke at our seminary, and he was sharing with us that as great as a communicator he was, and at that time people would come from around the world to listen to him speak, and his Sunday mornings were huge. Thousands of people who came each week to hear him speak. But he told us when he first started to speak, he was a failure. That in his first church, he was doing a poor job, and people let him know he was doing a poor job, and he was frustrated. He was trying hard, but he just wasn't successful at communicating God's word like he wanted to. And then he's doing a devotion with his kids, and his wife Cynthia just basically says to him, Chuck, why don't you preach like that? I mean, with the kids, you have these great insights, and you tell funny stories, and you make them laugh. And of course, as any husband, he basically rebukes her. No, that's not how you do it. That's not how I'm trained to do it. But it kind of became a splinter in his brain, and he kept thinking, what am I trying to do? And he realized he was trying to be like his homiletics preacher, and he's trying to be like his exegetical preacher, and he's trying to be all these people. He said that he was like the beast from Daniel, all these different parts, and it wasn't him. So he finally decided, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be who God made me to be, and he said that was the turning point. All of a sudden, his message was being used because he was being an original. He told us that he thinks to be successful in ministry, you need to know who you are, you need to be who you are, and you need to like who you are. And he says, honestly, it took him 10 years to know who he was, another 10 years to be who he was. He said probably only 20 years into ministry before he ever really liked who he was. And I'm saying at this point to say, you are a great original, you're a poor copy. Who has God called you to be? What experiences has God given you? What are you uniquely talented to do? Be that person. Don't try to be an imitation of somebody else. Be the person God has called you to do. Because if you're going to take down a Goliath, if you're going to do something you can only do with God's help that's larger than you won't do it trying to be a copy of somebody else. Guys, thank you for being part of the Daily Devo. So glad that you're continuing with us. Continue tomorrow and stay as we work through the Old Testament and then the New Testament, looking at the key chapters. You guys have a great day.